Growing up in a family of entrepreneurs, I always knew that I was going to start a business. I went to school at CSU and got my degree in accounting, not to ever be an accountant, but to have the information and knowledge of where the money's coming and going when I ran a business. And lo and behold, I started a few different companies over the years, but the company that I've been most engaged with and grown over the last decade is Soukup Real Estate Services here in Fort Collins. And today we're talking about what it's like to build, grow, and operate a small business in Northern Colorado. And with me today, I've got Zach Jordan. He is a real estate agent here with Soukup Real Estate Services. He was actually the first agent that joined the team in 2016, right?
Yep.
2016, and has been with me since. And he runs a small business in Northern Colorado as well, and is really doubling down on the real estate side of things as well, and very successful. So today we're excited to talk to you. Thank you for joining the channel. If you are new to the channel, this is living in Fort Collins, everything, eating, sleeping, working, playing, running a business in Northern Colorado. If at the end of the video you've enjoyed the content, give it a thumbs up, comment, engage, interact. And as much as we like making these YouTube videos, we like more working with buyers, sellers, and investors for all the real estate needs for everything Northern Colorado. So give us a call, text, email. We've got your back, myself or Zach. So we look forward to talking to you today. And without any further delay, let's jump into what it's like running a small business in Northern Colorado. So Zach, talk to me about kind of just a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with running and wanting to run a small business.
Okay. So whenever I'm looking to get anything done around my house or around a friend's house, any of my clients, buyers, sellers, whatnot, we go and look for local help, local outlets for painting, for windows, for lawn care, carpet, flooring, any needs that we may have. And we try to start local so that we don't get caught up with any fly-by-night crews, kind of taking our money and running. With that being said, our community is still small enough where we still can have that hometown feel, know your neighbors, and whatnot. So having that relationship built with these small business owners in Northern Colorado has been a big benefit.
Yeah, and you worked in the bar industry for many, many years and have a phenomenal network of people that you know in Northern Colorado, Loveland, and Fort Collins. And just chopping it up with people on a nightly basis, you can kind of see and hear needs. And at that point, you looked at and began operating a painting business. And how has that kind of gone? And what do you feel like the support is locally for a small painting business in Northern Colorado?
The support is incredible. We build these relationships with these clients, and they call us back for project after project after project. We pride ourselves on bringing quality and craftsmanship to every project. We stand behind our work and being prompt and cost effective.
Yeah. And for me, when I started my business, I knew, I was a real estate agent, got my license officially in 2013 to be an employing broker in Northern Colorado. I think it's changed actually recently, but it used to be 2 years experience. Literally was the only rule to being employing brokers. So for me, I got my employing broker's license 2016, started Soukup Real Estate Services, and it was more of like a selfish, like I want to be my own employing broker because my focus at that time was kind of more of investments, not necessarily like day-to-day brokerage. So I didn't want anybody telling me necessarily what to do. So it wasn't like as altruistic as like filling a need and supporting the local economy. But I would say since probably 2017, 18, when our focus after becoming really more of a larger producer, a larger broker, that I was like, wow, I'm all of a sudden a real estate agent and like we're doing really well. Now maybe we should focus on building a cool team, a cool culture. And for me, it was same thing, being born and raised here in Fort Collins, Northern Colorado. That was a big deal for a lot of the people that I worked with. I knew the streets, knew the roads, knew the areas, knew the history, background, future, and could really kind of talk at a high level with clients about making as wise of a financial decision when they're buying a house as possible, and from there, it was really easy. I don't know about like what your kind of path was for starting a painting business, but for me, setting up an LLC, I went through LegalZoom. I don't think you went through something else.
Nope, just the Secretary of State for Colorado. It takes $50. You can register a company, get started.
And I spent $500. So I mean, like $50, you have your company registered.
Yep. General liability, very, very inexpensive to get a certificate to be covered up to $1 million, $2 million per project. So another cheap cost.
Yeah.
One of our biggest costs is going to be workman's comp. Keeping everything in-house and small enough where we can still have a hand on every project, whether we are in-house or subbing out. We still have to have workman's comp, and that is our biggest cost in overhead.
Yeah, because now, and that's kind of one cool thing too, I think about small businesses is we have a brick and mortar location for Soukup Real Estate Services, but if we really wanted to, we could be completely virtual, which, it's kind of like what you're doing, which is a huge expense that you're kind of able to limit. And I think even people are more expecting that these days is more of a virtual presence. You don't have to have a physical presence anymore to be successful. So for you and your business, I know you guys are all Northern Colorado. What's kind of like your geographic boundaries that you feel comfortable servicing?
Okay, so we service anywhere on the Front Range, as far south as Longmont and all the way up to Wellington. We'll go as far east as Johnstown, Windsor, Milliken. We've done a little bit up in Nunn, but mostly all of Northern Colorado.
I think that's it's an interesting conversation that I have with a lot of people that are moving here to Northern Colorado is, well, one, we don't have a ton of traffic. Now, for us people that are kind of born and raised here, it feels like a whole lot more traffic than we used to have. But, people coming, like we just had some folks in from Houston and they were talking to us about it could take them an hour and a half to 2 hours to get across the city. And for us, it might take an hour and a half to get from maybe Longmont to Nunn, maybe, possibly, but really not
on a bad day.
On a bad day, but that's going through 3 or 4 cities. So that's one thing that I think's interesting is when people are moving here, we're spread out, like because City of Fort Collins is 180,000 people, but when you take into account Larimer County and Weld County, you all of a sudden start to get this demographic that's pretty large and can support small business.
Absolutely.
So, I think the expectation is that you do service those surrounding communities. Now, I think it's important, like for me personally, actually, and Connor does a little bit. He'll go a little bit further south. You might as well just because you were raised in Loveland, and you weren't born in Loveland, were you?
No, Dallas. Yeah. Good old Texas.
Yeah. So, but for me, the furthest south I go is Berthoud. I don't feel like I know the market well enough to go further south. But depending on the industry that you service, you don't have to be an expert in that area. I would say it's probably more of like what is your comfort, driving radius.
Absolutely. Getting crews to and from projects safely and efficiently. If they have an hour drive time, we're just paying way too much in wages for that kind of.
Yeah. Which actually interesting. I just thought about this is probably a topic of conversation for anybody who's wanting to start a small business is how has it been for you to source employees and work and laborers here in Northern Colorado?
So we don't really have an issue with getting work. We typically have more work than we can handle. Getting and maintaining a relationship with employees or subcontractors is harder and harder as the days go by because everybody wants to start their own small company. And I don't know if they know all the ins and outs that go with it and why we have to charge what we do charge for the services we provide. But once we do find a good crew or good employees, they tend to stick around.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate, with Zach, Connor, Ashley, and Izzy, I think we have a really cool culture, and that's more like for me on my business, is what's important is the culture and that people enjoy being around each other and working together, because it was never like intentional, right? Like it was a convenience at that time that you had your real estate license, hung it. Like I was like, oh, let's do this. And for Zach, or not for Zach, for Connor, I was about the worst recruiter ever. I was like, go hang your license anywhere else because they have the right training, recruiting. But then actually we got to a point where, business was boom, doing quite well, that actually it's been really supportive for everybody. And then Ashley and Izzy have been phenomenal pieces, and I'm grateful to have them. And, talking about, raises and things of that nature just recently with, a couple of our W-2 employees. And it's just a conversation of like, we've got to make sure that their cost of living is covered especially over this last 6 months to a year, that they enjoy what they're doing. And I think culture is a big deal.
Yeah, culture and definitely employee appreciation, I feel goes a long way. Open communication so that you know what problems are arising and kind of nip it in the bud before it becomes too big to handle. So.
Yeah. Which then, kind of leads me into, I think we live in a world right now that lawsuits get thrown around all over the place. Just for, wrongful firing or doing a job incorrectly, or you name it. I think right now a lot of people are afraid of lawsuits. But for me personally, I think here in Northern Colorado, we're fortunate that, yes, lawsuits do happen in egregious matters. But generally speaking, in my opinion, for at least with my company, I've not been in one lawsuit, and hopefully not, don't have to experience that. In my past life, I've been through plenty of lawsuits, just because of different situations. But I think here in Northern Colorado, people are more concerned with reputation than necessarily getting sued. So when you go out to a job, obviously you want to provide and perform for the client, but if there's something that goes wrong, like, what are your ways of handling it? So if wrong color, right? Or
yeah, absolutely. So you could pick a beautiful color on a little swatch that's 2x2, and we get it on your house, and it's absolutely hideous. We're going to work with you to get this addressed and taken care of in a timely manner. I'm going to bring out my paint reps. We're going to see if there was a problem with the product or the way we are applying it, and go from there. Our end result is to make you happy as a customer, because you're going to be a return and repeat customer. Word of mouth is the biggest marketing tool that we support and love. Like you said, that reputation. Yep. So we go the extra mile to make it right, regardless. If we are making a ton of money or if we cut it even and cut our losses, but we got the end product and the end result to where we needed to be.
Yeah, I talk to people a lot about that, especially coming from all over the country, moving here, specifically from bigger metros that, specifically on what's called an escalation clause for real estate. So if you're buying a house, especially in the hot market that we've been in, you put an offer on for $515 and you escalate up to $545,000. So a $30,000 potential increase in the offer of your contract. And what we ask is that the seller provide a copy of that contract that indeed kicks in our escalation clause. And when individuals are coming from a big metro, they ask me, well, can't they just make that up? Can't they have their cousin drop a contract? I'm like, yeah, absolutely they could. But it just takes one time for that to get out, that I find out or somebody else finds out, and your reputation is smashed. And in Northern Colorado, that would put you out of business. Yep. If you become, like, there are a handful of real estate agents, and I would say even less than that, like maybe a few real estate agents that in Northern Colorado that have reputations that when you see a deal with their name on it, you triple check, quadruple check, 10 checks until you sign the dotted line, because past experiences with those individuals. And so it is not something that you play around with, whether you're a painter, a carpenter, that information gets disseminated very quickly and very wide in our community. So I would say that's for one thing that I really enjoy, is how important, at least currently, reputations are in Northern Colorado, because we are a growing community. And absolutely. I'm sure there will be a day when maybe we exceed 1 million people with Northern Colorado, Weldon and Larimer County, that maybe reputation starts to matter a little bit less and less, and you become a bigger metro. But hopefully for the foreseeable future, we can continue to operate business in that way. So you talked about word of mouth as far as one of your biggest marketing tools. As a small business owner, kind of the tried and true ways of old were, joining the Rotary Club or the Chamber of Commerce, getting involved, with charities and different nonprofits, which I think are all great. What are you seeing as the biggest tool? So you suggest word of mouth for growing your business. How are you growing your business here in Northern Colorado?
So I'd say we are growing significantly by making a presence in the community, making sure we are there donating for high school sports, anything that we have kind of a passion for, putting together outreach programs, anything like that, joining the Better Business Bureau, Rotary Club, stuff like that, making ourselves known and being present, that we're here for the community, to better the community and work with the community.
I think that's one thing that I've talked with Izzy actually about is, we're donating by monetary means right now, more so than we are on our time basis, mostly because for me personally, I don't have that bandwidth at all with 3 kids, full-time business, all that kind of stuff. But I do think that's really important. That's one thing that I think personally I lack on is, community outreach and getting involved with a cause that really, hits home for me. Because, I've looked at the Chamber of Commerce, I've looked at Rotary, and for me, the marketing strategies that I use are pretty much all social media and then reputation, repeat, referral clients. And I've been able to make a a pretty successful business around that. But I think now it's time for maybe myself at some point, not anytime in the near future, but at some point, finding a cause that I can be, truly engaged in for the cause, not for the purpose of business. Because I think that's something that it just always made me feel just like sick. I was like, I'm not joining this, group that has this cause for the purpose of growing my business. I just, I'm gonna dread going there. And then, but I feel like I'm kind of getting to that point. But I think, Zach does a phenomenal job. He actually just got done with his track season. He coaches, and he's coached for how many years?
11 years now at Thompson Valley High School. So
yeah.
Congrats to the girls. They took 3rd place overall this year. Did very, very well. So
yeah.
Have a few kids that we're going to miss, but wish the best of them to their upcoming seasons.
And Zach and I, that's actually how we met, was through CSU track and field. And so, that's something that's near and dear to Zach's heart. And I don't know how he does it. I volunteered coached for like 2 months, maybe, at Fort Collins High School, and I could not stand it. So it kind of goes to, who Zach is as far as having patience, wanting to be coaching, wanting to coach. And I think that shows through on his business acumen and his ability to grow relationships with clients, people who want to come back and work with them, which I think in Fort Collins in Northern Colorado, you have to be able to do that to be successful here. Because, recently we've had a neighbor move in, and I was talking to a client from California, and we were joking around. I was like, this neighborhood is going to hate these guys. Like they're popping their, and it's a nice neighborhood. It's nothing like crazy, super nice, but it's a nice neighborhood. But they're parking up on the curb, super, super loud, like aggressive barking dog. The grass looks horrible. This house that they bought was $1 million. And in Fort Collins, that's a pretty decent purchase price. We have a median sales price now of $600,000, so almost double the median purchase price. And but what was the straw that broke the camel's back for me was I was walking my kid down the sidewalk. I wave at the guy in the truck who's parking there, and the dude doesn't wave back. Just looks at me dead in the eye and doesn't wave back. And me and this friend from California, we were talking, texting back and forth, and I was like, the person's either a trust fund kid, drug dealer, or a crypto millionaire. One of the 3, because they're very young that's living there. And she texts back, she goes, oh, we wave in Fort Collins. And I responded with, deal your drugs, sir, but you better wave to me. And I think that's just kind of Fort Collins atmosphere, is like people want to do business with people that they like.
Absolutely. And you're not going to be liked by everybody.
Yeah.
So I think if as long as you're being genuine and showing your real true self, you'll succeed.
Yeah.
So
and time too, like you've been at this for a while. I think one thing that people have to take into consideration, like, yeah, you can throw a lot of money at marketing, and that can jumpstart your business, but ultimately I think people want to see you in business. You're gonna have to grind it out for a few years.
Yep.
But then once you get those returning clients, people that you've done business with and for, you can really, get some feet, your feet beneath you to continue running. But, well, last question, and then we'll get going on this video, is if you moved to Northern Colorado and you were an entrepreneur, do you feel like the Northern Colorado environment is ripe for entrepreneurs?
I would say 100% yes. I think that it is a very friendly, inviting environment. People want to meet new people. People want to have a different side of what they see for their vision, bringing some new stuff.
Is there any good old boy or good old girl club to where if you were, let's say, a carpenter, you can't get in because Johnny Sledgehammer, has all of the business and you're not getting here? Or is Fort Collins big enough and wide enough for multiple businesses?
I think there's enough work out there that you don't really have to worry about. There are some still good old boy business groups going on where, hey, we've used X, Y, and Z for 20 years, and regardless what they charge us and craftsmanship and everything else, this is who we're going with.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you see less and less of that. I guess fortunately, you see less and less of that, making it easier for the normal guy to get in and make a name for himself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think Fort Collins at some point, as early or as late as maybe like the 80s or maybe even early 90s, there was a lot of that of like, we go to X car dealership to buy our car and that's it. No one else can come in here. But I think that Fort Collins, Northern Colorado has kind of grown past that point to where if you're an entrepreneur and you have the drive, I think Northern Colorado has got a great environment for people to be successful with discretionary income and incomes to support local and your potential small business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet.
100%.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you joining. And
absolutely.
If you guys have any real estate needs or questions specific to Northern Colorado, Loveland, Fort Collins, you name it, Zach or myself are happy to work with you. Hopefully this video is engaging and insightful for you if you're looking at moving here in Northern Colorado and potentially starting a small business. Until next time, guys, take care.